Reason number 4, why your next boat should be a Camus. Our fully composite transom. Your engine hangs on your transom. Our transom spans the entire width of our boat and is super strong, ensuring that you'll never have to worry about taking your Camus into rough water. We are speaking with Steven Barden. He's the founder of Texas Pro Lakes Management. I guess it wouldn't be a real interview with a fisheries biologist if I didn't ask you at least a forward-facing sonar question. And we touched on it a little bit earlier, but recently I got to fish in back east in a state in a lake that had a lot of crappie, and I had the most epic day of crappie fishing that I've ever had. Actually, it was the most epic 2-hour period of crappie fishing that I've ever had.
Yeah.
We were on a brush pile. We had a forward-facing sonar, and the fish just kept biting. We didn't catch more than our limits, but it was remarkable to me that these fish continued to bite.
Mhm.
I just couldn't believe that a single brush pile could hold that many fish. Um, and I began thinking. Oh, another thing I noticed is that when we cleaned the fish at night, most of these fish had smaller crappie in their stomachs. Now, I wanted to ask you, first of all, is forward-facing sonar a good harvesting tool, or is it a bad harvesting tool based upon those kinds of things that I just observed?
Yep. Well, it's a tool.
It's a
That's the
tool.
first thing. It is
Yeah.
a tool. And the truth is, if we take you and we say, well, you're a guide, and you do that every single morning, and you limit out, and then you go drop off your client, and now you can do a second client a day when you could only do one client before forward-facing sonar, then you are exploiting the resource at a higher rate than you used to. That's a bad thing, right?
Okay.
Because our regulations are built in on the fact that we know roughly how many anglers participate in a given state based on the number of license holders. We know roughly how many trips that each groups of anglers do for a reservoir based on krill surveys. So we can adapt regulation if we understand how many trips we have and how many anglers are participating and what their harvest rates are. When we have somebody who acts outside of that system and can exploit at a faster rate, that changes the whole equation. Now, you ask if it's a good or bad tool. It is a tool that, if you know what you're looking at, will make you a better angler.
Yes.
It allows you to adapt to the situation and put a presentation in front of the fish, and you'll find that you'll change baits quicker, you'll move locations quicker because you're able to rule in and out what you're doing at a faster rate. Now, you still have to be able to put that combination of line, lure, rod, and reel together and make a presentation and catch that fish. And there's some skill that's involved there. I think it comes down to your ethic at the end of the day on, if I'm crappie fishing and I have a limit of 25 fish, do I throw back every 10 and 11-inch fish because now I'm looking for 12 and 14-inch fish because I know I can? Where in the past, if it was a 10-inch limit, and I'd start harvesting everything at 10 and a half inches once I feel like I'm safe from regulation, and I'd get my 25 fish and be done. Am I fishing in the morning and catching 25 fish, running home and hiding those in the freezer, and then coming back out and doing it again and breaking the law? Like, those are the ethical questions we have, and each angler has to answer
Yeah.
that because it is a tool.
Uh, Finding all the smaller crappie inside the bigger crappie stomachs, is that something, is that a concern about the balance of the lake, or is that just a natural occurrence?
That's natural. It's based on time of year, forage availability, and the fact that crappie are lazy predators. They won't move 6 inches to go after a bait. You really have to get in front of them. And all fish are cannibalistic, and I mean they're opportunistic. The fact that they had crappie in their bellies, that's what forage was available to them at that time. If you look at immediately after the bass spawn, there's going to be fry largemouth
Yep.
bass in those
Yep.
crappie bellies. If you look at immediately after shad spawn, there's going to be
Yeah.
juvenile shad. They're just going to take the opportunity of what's in their local environment. Now, if I consistently saw that year in and year out, all times a year, what I would tell you is there's not a lot of forage in
Yeah.
that fishery. They're being forced to eat themselves. And crappie are not a consistent spawner. They're a prolific spawner when they do spawn. They have a high number of eggs and yield a lot of recruitment. But they're not consistent in the fact that if weather changes occur, you get high muddy water, like some different scenarios, cold fronts come in, they may abandon spawning. And in some reservoirs, they abandon spawning completely for the entire year. So if a fishery like that doesn't have a great forage population, the crappie are consuming juveniles every year, and then they have a bad spawn class,
Yeah.
that can be really detrimental.
I'm Keith Neiswanger. This is the Bass Tour Anglers podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you'd like to reach us, please send us a direct message on Instagram at Bass Tour Anglers Podcast. Take care. Be safe. We'll talk to you next time.